Welcome to the Money Tales podcast. I'm Cammie Doder.
And I'm Sandy Brager.
Emily Winston, founder and CEO of Boichik Bagels, spent years obsessively reverse engineering the holy grail New York bagel. She then took a hard left from saver mode into founder mode. This involved redeploying her nest egg, raising money one bagel tasting at a time, and learning what financial success feels like when your time and most of your net worth is tied up in the business you're building.
Here are 3 key money topics you'll hear in this conversation. First, how growing up on games like SimCity and Civilization shaped Emily's instincts around resource allocation, timing, and scaling a business thoughtfully. Second, why she chose promissory notes, crowdfunding-style debt, and only later a small equity round to keep more ownership of the business. And third, how scaling a business changed Emily's sense of risk, value, and what's worth worrying about financially. Now it's our pleasure to bring you Emily Winston's Money Tales.
Welcome, Emily Winston, to the Money Tales podcast. It's great to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Before we dive into your story, I wanted to share I am reading a book. I was interested in learning about the Stoics. And so I bought a book titled, perfect for this effort, Stoicism 101. It's
Nice.
the short version by a gentleman, Eric Cloward, and it's perfect. I was looking for a simple, high-level overview of the Stoics.
Why, Cammie? What got you interested?
I love the quotes. I mean, every time Marcus Aurelius is quoted, I'm just like, wow, that is right on. And other Stoics and references just felt so, on point, at least for me. And I wanted to be less naive about them, and I wanted to learn. So I dove in. What really matters, in their opinion, is character. So wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. But money comes up throughout the book. And what I appreciated is Stoics didn't see money as good or bad. I'm referencing some of the terminology. They viewed it as preferred indifferent. So in other words, wealth can be useful. It's even desirable, but it should not define us. It shouldn't control us. A lot of Stoicism I'm learning is about worry about the things you can control. And there's a lot of stuff you cannot control. Try not to worry about it. So I'm really enjoying it. But I want to share their lens on money. The questions are does money serve your values or distort them?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Do you control money or does money control you? Oh, wow. And then I appreciated out of the book, the commentary, it says money becomes a resource. It's not a scoreboard. We talk a lot about that on Money Tales, and it's hard not to make it a scoreboard, and society makes it a score. It seems to, but I like that.
Well, numbers just lend themselves to that automatically.
That's right. You're right, Sandy. It's not your self-worth, and it's not the source of meaning. So it's not bad. It's not good. I'm really enjoying this book, and Eric's got a podcast called The Stoic Coffee Break. I will be a listener going forward.
Cammie, I'm wondering, those great questions that you just shared with us, have they made you think about your relationship with money differently?
Overall, this whole book is making me think about my relationship in life, right? So I think this idea of control and not control, which does impact my money decisions and what I worry about, and it is impacting me. I think it's slow and subtle, and I'm really encouraged to reflect. There's a lot of invitation to reflect on your life, and that reflection helps you make decisions that are aligned with your values. And I think about money decisions I'll be making and reflecting on how does it align with those values.
Emily, tell us, does money control you or do you control money?
I'd like to think that I control money. I'd like to think that, at least for the most part. I've been a big fan of Stoicism for a while. There's all kinds of good stuff in there.
It's incredible. Yeah. This book is repetitive, and I appreciate the repetitiveness, just from new perspectives of how you think about the fundamentals of Stoicism, and then they apply it to modern day life. And I also appreciate that because you're like, well, gosh, our lives are so different than their time, but they're not necessarily.
Yeah, and actually a lot of therapy, like CBT, behavioral therapy, actually comes, a lot of it, out of Stoicism.
I just read that, and it makes sense.
The things you can't control, you can't control, but there are things that you can control and you can do something about them and you can change how you frame them in your mind and not suffer with them and, all kinds of good stuff.
It's so good. And I realize this is not a read a book and you're done. Like this is a daily practice
of applying it. Yeah. And those concepts really are true for finances, personal finances. Understanding what you can control and what you can't control is a really important thing to realize when you're putting a plan together, because you can plan all you like, but there are things that you can't control that will happen, and you need to be able to roll with the punches without letting them kind of pull you out under and destroy your entire planning effort.
Well said. Well, Emily, would you briefly introduce yourself and share a couple pivotal moments that have taken place in your life that really influenced the person you are today?
My name's Emily Winston, and I'm the founder and CEO of Boichik Bagels based in Berkeley. I opened the first store just over 6 years ago now, and we are at 12 stores, 10 around the Bay Area and 2 in LA, and a wholesale program where we're selling in supermarkets all over California. And things are moving and expanding. The way I came to this is I'm from New Jersey, grew up Jewish in the suburbs. Every Sunday morning, my dad would go out and pick up a bag of bagels from the shop and bring them home. And that was our family brunch. Totally took it for granted. He was going to Manhattan. Sometimes he'd bring me, or if he was up there by himself for work, he'd stop at Zabar's on the Upper West Side, and then right across the street was H&H Bagels.
H&H, yummy.
He'd bring all that home, and I remember there were days where I'd come home from school, and Mom would say, "Dad's bringing home Zabar's, so that's what's for dinner." And so that was like the holy grail bagel experience. Fast forward 2010, I moved to the Bay Area, and I was like, these bagels are no good. I'll just not eat bagels until I go home to visit. And then I learned later that year that my beloved H&H had been shut down for tax fraud. I was so distraught that they were gone forever. And there was one outfit, I don't know if you remember hearing about Schmendrick's. They were in 2010 in
I remember
San Francisco,
that, yep.
doing these pop-ups. And I got to try their bagels. They did an event at Saul's in Berkeley. And I was like, well, these are good. Like, they're not H&H, but they were like a solid New York bagel. I'm like, well, that means that it's possible, because everyone says, oh, it's the water.
Right?
You can't make it. It can't happen. And I'm like, this is perfectly acceptable. Like, this is a good bagel. And if, like, I'm just not going to go dragging off to San Francisco at your pop-ups to get these necessarily, but this is a solid bagel. That means it can be done. And so my background is mechanical engineering, and I just like to figure things out and make stuff. And so I got this bee in my bonnet, and I'm like, maybe I could figure out how to recreate the H&H bagel. And now I think I have proof that it's at least theoretically possible, because these guys are making a decent bagel. So I just played with that as this obsessive hobby over the next 5 years. And it got better and better. Then I had this great bagel, and friends were like, you should sell these. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll look into that.
Oh, you were just making them to enjoy one.
Passion project.
There was no business plan attached at all.
Fantastic.
It was just like my Moby Dick. I'm looking for my bagel. And I got it. And then I did these pop-ups, and people went nuts. And Janelle Bicker was at the East Bay Express at the time. And I actually officially launched at the Eat Real Festival. And she came, and, in the next week in the paper said these are the best bagels in all of California, and everyone got very excited. I finally opened. People were super stoked about it. A year later was the New York Times piece that said, sorry, New York, the best bagels are in California, and we were the lead on that. That really just blew the roof off of the place. And when that settled down some months later, I said, well, I can either sit here in my wildly successful bagel shop, or I could think about growing this. And I'm an engineer, and I like to build. And I'm like, I'm going to get bored with one shop. And so I want to grow it. And I also grew up playing. I loved all the really nerdy strategy games like SimCity and Civilization, where you're deploying your resources and you're building, taking over the world. And I've always actually had an interest in business. I just never really pursued it particularly. So I think I got to try this. Let's go. Let's try to build a bagel empire.
And you did it. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. And I want to understand a little bit on this backstory where you've got your dad bringing home H&H bagels. Yummy. So that's your first bagel memory. What's your first money memory growing up?
That's a really hard one. But definitely an early one is I had, for some birthday present, someone had gotten me this. It was like a bank, like a coin bank, but it was like this cement thing with a slot, and then it was like a big sock stuck around it. And I had put it like hung from my closet doorknob, and it was like, so you put your change in there, and eventually it turns into a big pile. But it was a big sock. I am definitely the part, like the marshmallow test. I would be like, I'm all over the marshmallow test. I'm like, I will wait forever. If you tell me there's another marshmallow coming like in a week, the marshmallows will never get eaten. I have things like that where I can delay gratification forever and ever.
Oh, you are in control.
I was just going to say that's the stoic.
So I had this sock, and it filled up with so much change after like years, and it was still not full, but it was this huge sock. So it got heavier and heavier, and then one day the thing like cracked, top of it cracked and broke because there was so much change in it, and I never took it out to spend it. So
Are you still a saver?
it's definitely morphed. I'm much better at saving money. I've gone through some interesting phases, I think right after college, and I came into this book called Affluenza, and that was really moving to me in a lot of ways because I'm just like, I can live simply. I've kind of always had this little bit of a stoic bent, like I don't need fancy things or whatever, although I do like to eat really well. And I got, this, like, I can save the money and then it can like produce interest. I still love there's money in the bank and it's producing interest, and like that's just such a great feeling. But that was a big thing, and that led me to Your Money or Your Life, which is a really cool book. And I got super sucked into that. And then with my partner at the time, we both went super hog wild with that for many years. But so I kind of had this very frugal, very intentional, very saving the money in the bank thing, and investing. I went on some interesting investing adventures too for many years. And then with the business, it's really changed a lot because there is so much I don't control, and the numbers just get bigger and bigger, and they start, flying. And I now can like write checks for six figures, and it's not that big a deal, which is, so it's like, it's just changes. Everything has changed very dramatically for me with money.
I want to go back to the pre-change moment first, Emily, because you were reading books, you were being very intentional about your lifestyle, you were saving a lot of money. It sounds like you got interested in investing, you were investing money. What was the goal at that time?
It was definitely kind of that financial independence route. That's where Your Money or Your Life was kind of pushing that. Like they were pushing T-bonds at the time, whatever. But if your interest covers more than you need, then you can just do whatever you want. But which was just very appealing. Like I had my first job out of college was at General Motors Engineering, and had a good salary, but there was a lot that was frustrating about it. It's not that I was planning to like totally move off the grid and, pick berries and eat them sort of thing, and that's it. But that's always had a real appeal. There's this like more money is coming in than going out, and that just takes the pressure off of everything.
Yeah, it sounds like by having that money off to the side, growing, doing its thing, it gave you more flexibility. Not that you were hoping to stop working at a particular time, but you had some cushion to your lifestyle and you could make different career choices if you wanted to.
Just felt good. It's just the fact that this is growing, and like you just don't have to, it's just there, and you don't have to work a job that you don't want to. Still have this like, it just feels super appealing. It always just has this very big emotional appeal. If you just have this more interest coming in than you need to spend, then
it's freedom.
Yeah, it is
right?
freedom.
It gives you the freedom to choose. It sounds like you're in control at this point and you're making choices. And I'm curious, when you made the switch, what followed after a very, big corporate job, mechanical engineering?
Yeah, big corporate. I'm like, I don't like big corporate. So then I went to grad school. I went to UC Davis, actually for transportation technology and policy. And I was working on hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. My partner at the time went to vet school there. So we moved to Davis together, and we had a really good time there for several years. And then we moved back to Jersey because she had her vet internship. And I'm like, I'll go hang out with my family for a bit. And I was helping out my aunt who had this small business doing energy billing for commercial real estate, which is this really super esoteric, pretty boring, but just like number crunching and database work. I picked up the database stuff really well and did a lot of that programming. And actually then Eleanor and I moved back to the Bay Area. We're like, let's get out, let's go. But we had to go back to California. So we moved to Alameda where we had friends. The plan was my aunt was supposed to retire at some point and hand me the business. So I was planning on that and waiting. And then she was really dragging her feet with it. That actually, it was perfect though. I had all this time to like play with the bagels and like get into the pop-ups and do all this, get frustrated that she wasn't retiring already. When I'm like, you know what, I think I want to do it. And I don't know what, this is going to take forever. Like she's not retiring anytime soon. I'll just go and do this. And the nice thing was I was able to get work I needed to do for her in like a very part-time fashion.
So you could ramp up the bagels.
Yeah. So I could just put all this effort into bagels. So I started to do this, and it's like as soon as I signed the lease, she was just like, you know what, I think I'm going to close the business. And
oh no.
What she'd actually said to me for years was, you should be doing something better and more fun with your life than this boring business.
Oh, what a gift.
But I had looked at it and I was like, but this is makes a nice little chunk of change. Maybe I could grow it and I could even automate it. And it's not exciting or sexy, but like it makes good money. So anyway, that was really startling, but it actually kind of, in some ways, it was good because it kind of like burned the boat behind me. And it's like, well, now I've got bagels and I don't have the backup plan that I thought I had. I hope this works.
Emily, tell us about that period of time, because you go presumably from saving and investing all this money to now making capital expenditures to produce a product, not knowing what the sales would be like. And of course, you've ramped up over time. But what was that like early on when you were having more money go out the door than you were adding to your savings and investment coffers?
So I think a big part of it was for me because I had also grown up playing these games where it's like you think about, there's even times where you think about leverage investment, but you're investing your resources and you get this great payoff. So even though I had been like super into saving money, it was like, oh no, but now here's a thing. This is a real investment. And I did a bunch of modeling in Excel. Like, I think this is going to work. I was taking a bunch of food entrepreneur classes. I think this has a possibility of being a really excellent business. And that's what, like, I had to sell myself. Like, I think this could be really big. And so it was like, okay, well, I'm going to empty my piggy bank. So all this I'd spent like, my whole life accumulating. I'm like, well, I'm just putting all the chips are going in because I think this is where it should go. And then I also did a whole community investment I created a promissory note and I sent an email out to basically the people who are on my email list, like, is anyone possibly interested in lending me money to start this? And all I'd had done so far was some pop-ups, and I had people respond.
Are these the bagel bonds?
This was before. No, this was it basically was this kind of the same thing, but this is the first thing I did, because I was told I need like $600,000, or I came up with the number of $600,000 to launch the shop, and I didn't have that. And I looked into some other things, and there were some things that were just not right. So I'm like, I just want to do it. This is what I want to do. And I've done some small private investing. So I'm like, I want a deal that I would want to take if I was the other side. So I said something like, please lend me money. I'll pay you. I think it was 10%. Forget if it was 9 or 10% interest over the course of 5 years with an annual payment, but it's flexible. Like, it's not a set plan. It's basically almost like a balloon, like interest only, but like I could pay the principal along the way however I want to, but I'm promising to pay the whole thing back within 5 years.
That's a really great deal for the investors. I'm like, this is a deal that I would want. If I was someone else, I would want this deal. So I put that out there, and I had people, write to me. I had a number of friends and family lend me money, but really some of the biggest money came from other people I didn't know at all. And I had people say like, hey, I heard about like whatever, like I haven't had your bagel yet. So I would go over, I would like
and all the bagels I were making at home. So I'd like make up a batch of bagels. I'd come in their house with a bag of a dozen bagels and like a block of cream cheese from Trader Joe's and throw it down, and they would taste the bagels, say these are amazing, and write me a check for $5,000 or $10,000.
Wow, Emily, that's incredible.
They're like, these bagels are great. I'll take my money.
Which was testing your product
Yeah.
also. Emily, you borrowed money versus getting investors, and I'm just curious if you were thinking about the two and why you chose, getting money that you're borrowing versus investors in the business and maybe sharing some of the risk.
I didn't want to share. I'm like, this is mine.
Okay.
This is my baby. And, I didn't need millions of dollars. I needed under $400,000. I don't know. I'm like, this is not that kind of money. And I don't want someone telling me what to do. I'm very big on that.
Yeah.
If I can get the money for debt, then I want it for debt, because the projections I put in, came up with in Excel. I'm like, this looks like a fantastic business model. Like it really could be. If this was anything close to my projections, and I was trying to project conservatively, because I'm like, the last person I want to fool is myself.
Are you still bootstrapping it, or have you taken on investors?
There was a number of debt raises I've done, including actually 2 proper crowdfunding ones that raised over $1 million. And this year I did my first friends and family round for equity. And I also had my COO wanted in discussions a few years ago. He's like, I'm interested in staying, but I'd also want some equity. So I was like, well, if I'm going to give him a pit, let me bring some friends and family in, and also we could use a little more cash. And yeah, but I own 81% still.
Emily, this is amazing. I'm curious, when did you decide that you needed a CFO?
Oh, COO. We have a fractional CFO as well now. But the COO, it was after the New York Times piece where I was like, okay, I think I want to grow it. And I, really put a lot of thought into how do I want to do this. I'm like, I think I want a central facility where we like commissary the dough out and da-da-da. And then I was already seeing like, I think there should be this network of stores around the Bay Area, and we're delivering the dough and all of these things. And I thought about that, and I read a lot of business books, and one of the things I've seen a lot was people saying, there's certain times when you need to hire some real serious talent. And I'm like, you know what, I think if I'm going to do this, I don't want to, that's a big thing. Like, I don't want to screw this up. I think it's time for a serious hire. So he was my first serious hire, and he's been dynamite. We would not be where we are today without him, because I would have not been able to handle just this fast and
thanks for bringing that
this
up.
much. And I don't like logistics, and I like to say I'm an engineer. I'm not a people person. So like, we have 200 employees now, and dealing with all of that, it was so nice actually to have him come on, and he took over HR, and it's like, oh, thank God, because that was a miracle. I hadn't run us into the ground with my poor HR skills.
I mean, that's incredible growth in such a short period of time. Congratulations to you. What does the future look like for you?
On a personal level, I have this very weird situation I've felt like the last some years, where it's like I have a lot of money and simultaneously like not really any money. Basically everything is bagels and stock, and I don't really have cash. So I'm, instead of like house poor or house rich or something, I'm just bagel. I just have bagel empire. That's like an odd place. My whole life is just like in this and building this. So we're looking into now, I came up with this par bake method, and it actually could let us really scale in a much bigger way and faster. So the project this year is looking into the possibility of building a franchise out of this, and then it could go nationwide and even global.
And it sounds like you've taken your mechanical engineering background and have created some sort of robotics to
I love robotics.
Improve efficiencies.
Automation robotics, baby.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
So my thing is, I want the delicious bagel. I want the bagel to taste the way I want it to taste. And I don't care how we get there. I just want the food to be awesome when I eat it. And so when I started, I was obsessed with looking into like, how are they doing it in New York, and watching all these tapes. And when I go home, I go to New York and like stare in the window and take notes. How do I replicate that? Once I got that down, it's like, okay, this works and this is great. Well, now as an engineer, what can we do to make it more efficient? and easier, because I like to say engineers are a special kind of lazy, where it's like we'll do a lot of work to save one tiny bit of effort that happens every day for the rest of your life.
Scalable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the engineers love scale. So how do we move up from this dough rolling machine to a larger one that's less work? Because right now we're like, okay, the original machine is cut the piece of dough, we put it in, each bagel pops out, you pick the bagel up, you put it on the board, you pick the board up, you put it on the rack. And I'm like, well, there's no reason why we can't do more automation with that. That should not change the outcome of the bagel. So that's really where I put a big investment in for this factory was, let's move up to this mini industrial line, but we're still making our super premium bagel with our super awesome ingredients, and it's organic and all of these things, and the bagels are still delicious. But we're still baking. The boiling baking is still done totally by hand, the way they've been doing it for 100 years. As an engineer, my fantasy is, okay, if we get to this point where I can scale, what's the next step would be putting more automation in there. And to my mind, no one has ever done a fully automated bagel that comes out like a top tier level bagel with baking automation. So that's what I want to crack. That's my engineering goal, is that we get to, so we have to like sell more bagels, so I get to put in more equipment and then like make these things happen. It's a perfect confluence. In the food world, everyone's looking at automation because labor is expensive, and also things like repetitive stress injuries and workers' comp. A lot of things are just rough for people to do. The main robot, the super sexy robot that we have here, picks up the tray of 24-bit pieces of dough on a board at the end of the line, just picks it up and puts it in the rack, and picks up the dough, puts it in the rack. And that takes the place of, someone's job. So I'm like, we can have robots do these things, and we can have people do other things. And there's stuff that's part of what I'd like to do with more on the baking, boiling and baking side. It's like, it's hard work. It's hard work, and you're stirring and you're working over a boiling pot of water. And like, I think pretty much everyone has burned their hand in the kettle at some point. I've done it. It is not fun. A scalding burn is really not a good time. It's a lot of work, being in this oven, putting things in, pulling stuff out. There's no reason to not automate it, especially if I can make product come out the way I want it in the end.
I think this is really cool that you have the skills to be able to do this, but it does make me wonder, Emily, about how you think about the money investment in figuring out the engineering and investing in the cost with an unknown outcome. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if things work out, you can do the math there.
That's the fun thing now, actually. It's because it's kind of the opposite of how I was for many years, but it's like I want to spend that because it all feels like an investment.
That's your joy.
This is my joy. It's like I get to spend money guilt-free on toys, but it's all a business expense, and it could really pay off.
Right.
And a lot of people look at me and think I'm nuts, but like that one robot, the robot arm cost $150K to put it at the end of the line. Now that's an investment, and it's not a super amazing investment, because it's not like that was a wow that really paid back with like millions of dollars. It didn't really accomplish much of anything for us other than not have to have someone doing that job be like a couple of year payoff. But still, it's just like worth it in terms of coolness. Like, and we have it on display, people can watch it and they love it. And also just employee retention. The employee that would be doing that instead is just watching the line and watching for things going wrong.
That's incredible.
And not bending and lifting. And then we have people stick around for a long time. We have very low turnover because part of it, because I'm not making you just do this lousy job of pick up the dough and put it on a rack all day.
That's neat that you put it in that perspective. It's not just about efficiencies, it's also about overall happiness. You said in the beginning that you've gone from writing small checks to now these 6-figure checks. And I just want to know, how does that feel? Like, is that scary, or is it just, it's just a number? How does that feel to you?
It feels like growth. It feels like, so it's like, the first time it's really scary. And then it's just like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at now. That's really cool. I like just a lot of this. It's just like, okay, yeah, this is what I do. And I can handle bigger and bigger things now. So it feels very empowering, actually. But it's been, it's definitely a journey. And it also makes me much freer with my personal money because I'm like, well, if something's $50. Like, I'm not going to like sweat over it because I just, it just changes the whole perspective is like totally different. So I'm like, I'm much less frugal with myself now because it's just like it feels like life is short and the money that flies in and out of the business every day is astounding. And I just don't need to sweat about $20.
Emily, I just read the perspective chapter in my Stoicism book. So it's really resonating.
Emily, tell us, what's your next money conversation going to be and who will it be with?
Oh, well, we have our weekly finance meeting in a couple hours. So that's what every week we have our controller and the COO and our CFO, and we're all on Zoom and just looking over last week's numbers and, seeing if there's anything that we need to be aware of.
I love it. It's a weekly conversation. It's important.
That's important. And this last year, just learning about the real importance of cash flow being a big thing, especially as the company's gone bigger and more complicated. It's been a lesson. It's like we need to be really on top of that because the most important thing is making payroll every 2 weeks.
Emily, it's been such a pleasure talking with you on Money Tales. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
On Boichik Bagels and the success, and may it continue.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Money Tales podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you think would benefit from listening, and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your ratings and reviews help more people find our podcast. If you're inspired to gain clarity and peace of mind about financial matters, don't hesitate to reach out to our team at Esperient. Go to esperient.com/start a dialogue. Or you can email Sandy and me at podcasts@esperient.com. See you next time.